Okay, we are live. Bear with me. Here we go. David V. Gibbs. Sorry, like I said, bear with me. All right. Bear with me. One moment, please. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Constitution TV. This is Douglas V. Gibbs, douglasvgibbs.com. And there seems to be confusion out there about our natural rights, God-given natural rights. And we have a portion of our system, our country, political system, that have totally redefined what rights are. And they're doing things with it that was never originally intended by the Founding Fathers. Now, the true clues regarding our natural rights come from the Declaration of Independence. Not only in the Declaration of Independence does it indicate that our rights come from God, they are unalienable, and so on and so forth. Self-evident, but also that governments are instituted by men to secure those rights, not protect, not guarantee, to secure those rights. And then it says, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The answer to the question about our rights, about our natural rights, and what they're really all about could be, and I'm going to tell you it is, going to be the defining factor between which way we decide to go as a country, socialism or capitalism, liberty or tyranny. Do we continue down the road of American prosperity, or do we throw away our rights, throw away our freedom, throw away our liberty, and hand it over to a political system that is bound and determined to be a tyranny? For example, when it comes to our rights, we are told by government that it is government's job to protect our rights and to guarantee our rights. Now, the greatest threat against our rights is government, so the word protect doesn't ride well with me. It's like the Roman soldier jumping in front of you, holding up a shield and saying, "Don't worry, I'll protect you against me." Government's the greatest threat to our rights. So they're not there to protect our rights. They're there to secure our rights, to keep them where they belong, in our possession, because they're given to us by God. There's also this belief that government's there to guarantee your rights and to subsidize your rights if you can't afford them. And so healthcare, matter of fact, is one of those arguments. If you can't afford healthcare, government's there to make sure you have healthcare. They're going to pay for your insurance and give you socialized medicine. Ronald Reagan, in his one of his most famous speeches, warned us about socialized medicine, warned us about government-mandated healthcare, government-controlled healthcare, government-funded healthcare. When we talk about government-mandated healthcare, one of the first questions is, how are you going to pay for it? Where's the money going to come from? And it's that way with anything that has to do with socialism. Margaret Thatcher said that the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money. So first of all, there's that factor. The other thing is human nature. We naturally tend to do things when in certain situations. So if government healthcare is being handed out, of course, we're being taxed and nothing's for free, but it's being handed out. What happens is everybody starts to utilize as much as possible. They're at the doctor all the time for every little sniffle. What are they worried about? It's not going to cost them a dime. They're paying for it anyway. So you wind up, number one, with a backup of lines, long lines of patients. The doctors now, you can't make a living the same way you could before. Now it's a government job. You're not going to make this unbelievable amount of money as a doctor. You're gonna get a government's wage for it. So now the doctor is abandoned. The best of the brightest no longer want to be doctors because the incentive is gone. So now the quality goes down. And then as the quality goes down, what winds up happening is the cost starts going up. And government can't even afford all of the things. I have a friend of mine who lives in Toronto, and she told me that when Canada went to healthcare, socialized medicine, it was great for the first few years. And then the government started realizing it couldn't afford everything. So there was a list that began to be built and grow of things that the government would not cover. So in order to get those things covered or to get full coverage, one would have to purchase supplemental insurance. So now you got socialized medicine and you're back to insurance again. And at the time, I was paying an exorbitant amount here in the United States for mine while I was in construction. And what she was paying in taxes for her supplemental insurance was more than what I was paying, even though my cost was pretty high compared to most people for my private insurance. Why are you going to get the money? How are you going to pay for it? What happens when you go into socialized medicine, not that this is that's what this video is about, is where are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? The money is just not enough, because the problem is when it comes to socialism, parasite off production. And you know what parasites do, right? They kill the host. So in a movement towards socialized medicine, in the hopes of moving towards government controlled medicine, during the Obama administration, they pushed the Affordable Care Act, or the Unaffordable Care Act, depending on what you want to call it, Obamacare. And there was all kinds of promises made, and none of them were met. You lost your doctor. The price went sky high. So now, since that didn't work, they realized they couldn't do it. And the reason why, let me back up. The reason why they did Obamacare is because they knew if they used the words universal health or socialized medicine, the Americans would be reviled by that. So they tried Obamacare. Didn't work. Drove costs up. A lot more people now are without health care. I was one of them. I lost my health care because of Obamacare. So now they're calling for Medicare for all. Don't be fooled that Medicare for all that they're calling for right now is universal health care, socialized medicine. It's a complete takeover by the government of our medicine. And quality will go down. The doctors that would normally, people who would normally want to become doctors, or those minds that are geared towards that because they're going to make a good living, will no longer move in that direction because it'll be a government job. The lines will get long, and ultimately the costs will go up, and it'll destroy what has been a pretty successful healthcare system in the United States. Now, when it comes to healthcare, I'm not a big fan of insurance companies. I think, someday we ought to be able to go back to the patient-provider, dichotomy that used to exist, but, so be it. But here's the reason why I bring up healthcare. The reason why I bring all this up is it gets back to our rights. We're told that you have a right to healthcare. Therefore, universal healthcare, socialized medicine, whatever, government must provide you healthcare because it's a right. So it's guaranteed. And if you can't afford it, government will fund it. Well, that argument is pretty much a mainstream argument now on when it comes to our rights, except that's not what the Declaration of Independence says, which I mentioned earlier. And that isn't even what the Constitution says. If the definition of a right is that government must protect it and guarantee it and fund it, if you can't afford it, the Second Amendment says that we have a right to keep and bear arms. So should not government then be funding guns for those who can't afford one? It doesn't work with their definition. So obviously that's not the right definition. The definition to our natural rights, what is a right? We see it with healthcare right here. That's the wrong definition. That's not, do we have a right to healthcare is the question. There was a Miss USA pageant contestant, and she was asked, do we have a right to healthcare? And she said no. It was a responsibility. And she was attacked by the mainstream media for that answer. We have a right to health care. It's a fundamental right, and government must protect it and fund it and make sure everybody has it. Well, she was partially right. We don't have a right to health care, but getting back to the Declaration of Independence, we do have a right to pursue it. Remember, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But do you have a right to pursue it? Do you have the right to be happy? No. Yes. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, you are alive. You have a right to stay alive. And government should be restrained from taking that right away from you. Liberty, we have a right to liberty. We have a right to freedom. And government should restrain itself so as not to interfere with that right.
Yeah.
The rest of our rights are different. We have a right to pursue them. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have a right to pursue your health care. Broke my ankle, I have a right to pursue someone to fix it. But I don't have a right to force this particular doctor or that particular doctor to fix it by force of law. I have a right to pursue gun ownership, but I have to go through certain processes, like saving up the money to afford it in the first place. I have a right to pursue a home, and I can work towards it. But I'll have a right to a home where they must give it to me. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Thank you, David V. Gibbs.
Pursue a lot of these rights that we're being told we're entitled to. Government must guarantee them. They must fund it. No, that's not government's job. Government's job is just to get out of the way so that the opportunity to pursue those rights is within our grasp.
Yes.
I remember when I was younger, we used to see signs at these businesses. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Someone can't force you to serve them because you have your rights. I have a right to swing my arms. You have a right not to be slugged in the face. So I need to be responsible with my right to swing my arms. And also, I have a right to pursue swinging my arms in any arena I want. But if it interferes with somebody else's right, then my right needs to be pulled back. Because we live in a place where we should be limiting our rights, but because it's the responsible thing to do. I have a right to go through the intersection. But my right to go through that intersection stops at the bumper of the next guy. That's why they put in stoplights, not to take away our right to go through the intersection, but to make sure we go through the intersections safely and we're not hitting each other, to preserve our rights, because we also have a right to life. And I'd really not like to lose that life going through an intersection because someone else wanted to go through it at the same time. So we have a right to pursue happiness. I have a right to pursue my health care, pursue a doctor that'll fix me. I have a right to have a cake baked the way I want it. No, wait a second. No, I have a right to pursue it. I have a right to pursue having a cake baked the way I want. Because, see, the other person might have their own rights. Should my rights interfere with their rights? Should the force of law force somebody to have their rights put at risk and jeopardy for the sake of someone else's right? I want my cake to be baked a certain way. I want a certain message on the top of the cake. But the person I went to, it's against their religion or it's against their belief system, whatever. Well, I have a right to pursue
to hit the thumbs up.
The cake I want. Not to force someone to bake it. So it's my responsibility as someone responsible with my rights then to seek out who's out there that would bake it the way I want it. They're there somewhere. And if they're not, then by creating that demand, it'll probably encourage somebody to open a business that does do that kind of cake. Anytime we go beyond the pursuit of happiness and government says, no, your right's guaranteed and we're going to make sure of it. We'll use the law. We'll use judges to force someone to bake your cake or to sell you a certain pizza or whatever. Well, that's not natural rights, and that's not the pursuit of happiness. That's tyranny. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I have a right to pursue certain right. You don't have a right to be anything. You have a right to pursue it. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if that pursuit interferes with somebody else's rights, then it's not a right. Or it's a right that's being miswielded. If a right has to use the force of law to force somebody else into compliance, then it's not a right. It's a tyrannical action. Now, this idea not only started with the Declaration of Independence, but it's in the United States Constitution, these principles. And the idea is that we have these rights. God gave us these rights, and we are to be responsible with these rights because we have a right to pursue, and government is there to create that opportunity for us to pursue those rights and to restrain themselves, because the greatest danger against our rights is government. That's why the First Amendment begins, Congress shall make no law. Congress shall make no law regarding religion. Congress shall make no law regarding speech. Congress shall make no law regarding freedom of press. Congress shall make no law regarding the freedom of assembly. And Congress shall make no law regarding the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. In other words, government shall make no law regarding how we pray or what we believe and how we believe it. Government shall make no law on what we're allowed to say and how we're allowed to say it. Political correctness and hate crime laws suddenly come to mind. Congress shall make no law regarding the freedom of the press, not just journalism, it's letters to the editor, it's blogging, YouTube videos. Government shall make no law regarding how we gather, who we gather, why we gather.
I'll talk to you after the video.
Peaceably simple, right? Government shall make no law regarding the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. In other words, how we can be activists, how we're involved, how we send our message. They can't tell me it's illegal for me to send a message to my representative, or for me to meet with my representative, or for me to rally on a corner with a big sign that says whatever my political belief is, as long as I'm doing it peaceably. Congress shall make no law. The key to the whole thing, however, is not just the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and recognizing that our rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of health care, the pursuit of having a cake baked the way I want. Because if we're not a virtuous people, we're not going to understand that. And then tyranny will grab hold. If we're not a godly people, we're not going to be fair to each other. We're not going to be responsible. Benjamin Franklin said it best, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of master. What have you been seeing? As we move away from being a virtuous people, as we move away from being a good people, we are seeing violence in the streets, violent protests, rioting. And as a result, we have a government that is becoming more like a master and putting the people into slavery, and doing so primarily through the courts. You believe marriage should be a certain way? No, court's going to overrule that. This baker didn't want to bake this cake because it interfered with their religious freedom, their rights. Tough. We're going to put you out of business and you're going to bake that cake anyway. That's not freedom. That's not liberty. That's government intrusion. That's tyranny. That's authoritarianism and a judicial oligarchy. So when it comes to our natural rights, they're God-given. You look at the Constitution of the United States, and you read in the Declaration of Independence, and you read there, and like I said, it gives you these 4 characteristics of our natural rights. I'm gonna go over them real quick again for you, but I'm gonna read them directly from the Declaration for you. So let's see. The separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. As individuals, in God's eyes, we are equal. We all have our rights. Separate and equal station. Separate, we're individuals. Equal, when it comes to the fact that we have been given our rights by God, it's an equal distribution. Government's the one that interferes and gets in the way of those things. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Our rights are self-evident. We know right and wrong. We know what our rights are and what we should be able to pursue. We know, I think deep down, I think everybody knows that it's wrong for someone to force somebody to bake a cake a certain way and then use the courts to force them to do it. You better bake my cake the way I want or else. Everybody knows that's tyranny. But the corrupt and vicious part of our system are so selfish. They're not willing to step back and see it that way. All men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. We are endowed by our Creator with our rights, and they are unalienable. They belong to us no matter what. They're inseparable. Government may block our access to a right, but that doesn't make them cease to be our rights. Even if they confiscated every gun in the country, I would still have a right to keep and bear arms. And it would be my duty to do whatever it took to restore access to that right. Government's job is to provide opportunity by staying out of the way, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, for us to pursue our rights, pursue property ownership, pursue good job, pursue health care, pursue having products made the way I want, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When government ceases to provide that opportunity and instead becomes an obstacle, it's tyranny. So what do we have now? We have tyranny. We have a system that began with the Declaration of Independence. Then it was codified in the U.S. Constitution. And now it's being systematically destroyed and dismantled by tyrants through methods like political correctness, judicial oligarchy, demanding that a product be made a certain way or else you're out of business because they're somehow part of some protected group. There shouldn't be a protected group.
Yeah.
We're all created equal. You all should have the opportunity to pursue our happiness. If I wanted a Muslim baker to bake a cake with a cross on top of it and he refused, do you think I would have gotten the same treatment in the courts? Probably not. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have a right to pursue our natural rights. Not to demand it, not to use the judges to force people. I have a right to swing my arms, but I need to be responsible with my right to swing with my arms so that I don't punch you in the nose. We have a right to pursue happiness, but we also have a responsibility not to allow that pursuit to interfere with other people's rights. If it does, redirect the pursuit. Find a baker that will bake the cake. Douglas V. Gibbs. Go to douglasvgibbs.com or politicalpistachio.com if you want to help fund what I do with these videos, my writing, my classes, and so forth. Also, I have books available. douglasvgibbs.com/books.php. 6 books at the time I made this video. A Promise of American Liberty coming out really soon. That is a resource that you want to get your hands on. Go check it out. See if it's available. It's a little bit more expensive. It's a bigger book, but I'm going to tell you what, it will be the most valuable resource in your library. Use it as a reference guide.
Good books.
Glossary, index. You want that book.
Definitely.
A Promise of American Liberty.
All his
And
books
that
are
said,
simplified.
I am Douglas V. Gibbs. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay constitutional.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Truth-free, stay constitutional, isn't it? David V. Gibbs, he teaches the class on the Constitution. And he simplifies it. He goes, you know, to Article 3 all the way through. He's here in California, and good guy, and his books are worth having. He breaks this complicated, difficult writings that were designed and understood by the people in that day. It's something we've got away from as a nation, as a people. And he understands it. This guy's been studying the Constitution since he was I would think he said like the 5th or 6th grade, he had an interest in it. And he's been studying this his whole life. And I have some videos here on my channel playlist on the Constitution while I was in his class. Okay, Truth Free says, do our police take an oath to? Yes, I believe they do. I believe they do. Will it be federal? Let me see what you're saying here. State Constitution, good. Red laws. Will it be federal? I haven't heard anything about the red laws. This is something that I'm just kind of scratching the surface of myself. Like I said, I've been in his class. I have 1 through, I want to say, Article 6 of the Constitution, I believe. It's my playlist here on the Constitution. But you got to go into my playlist to find the playlist that I have on the Constitution. While I was taking this class, I was going live, and then I was videotaping it live. And I plan on trying to get back to doing that here in the near future. But he's got quite a few videos on his channel, and his link is in the description on this video. And I will put the link to his channel here in the live stream. Let's see if I'm able, if I can do that. I'm not sure if I'm able, but we're going to find out right now. Let's see if I can. I don't know that I'll be able to. So give me a moment here as I go over here. All right. Over here. All right. Over here. Whoa, feedback. All right. Whoa, feedback. Over here. Hold on. Whoa, feedback. All right. Whoa, feedback. Over here. Hold on. Whoa, feedback. How's that? Okay, now let's see if I can put that here in the playlist. See if I can't put his link here. Yeah, there it is. There's the link to David Gibbs' channel. All right, do our police take an oath to? I believe that our police officers do take it. The red laws, gun laws, in the nutshell, tell no folks have guns confiscated. They are dangerous on meds, etc. Oh, these new laws they've passed. I don't know a whole lot about that. I am somewhat aware of it. We would do well to learn the Bill of Rights. Yes, we would, and to know a few. Yes, the natural God-given rights, law, sometimes complete pose like the infanticide. Hey, reviewing, playing, and more. Thanks for being here. You can play back and listen to the beginning. It's like about a 15-minute breakdown of the Constitution, and it's just the introduction to give you an understanding of it, and it's really well put together. Now, there's more videos on David V. Gibbs. I have his permission. He's a friend of mine to play this or any of his videos. Like I said, I have videos in my playlist on the Constitution, and if you want to learn that, you can go through it. I believe it's like Article 1 through 6. I want to say, I forget exactly how many of them, but I look forward to doing that here in the near future. Going back to doing that. You could ask David V. Gibbs some questions, even in his comments on his videos on his channel. The link to the to his channel is here in the chat. Yeah, this is something that I personally am learning about. I don't know a whole lot about it. But like you, I'm learning, and I have a very big interest in knowing it. And, unfortunately, we perish for a lack of knowledge. And we need to know our Constitution. We need to know our Bill of Rights. We need to know the Declaration of Independence. Like he states here in this video, that the Declaration of Independence says that the government is to protect our rights. The biggest liberties being attacked are A, self-defense, and B, freedom of speech. Oh, yeah. Yes. And that's why it's that much more important that we know them, so that we can hold them accountable to them, meaning the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, so that we can hold them responsible to them, meaning these things, these articles that our forefathers put in place, so that we wouldn't end up in a tyrannical state that we're tipping into, teeter-tottering into at the moment. It's high time, as my dad would say, it's high time that we learn the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. And the terminology that was used, David breaks down that Douglas breaks down the terminology and the grammar and usage of the original articles, and he explains what they mean and the definitions of them. And this is so important that we understand. When I was in his class, I'm going, well, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, it doesn't, what did I say? Oh, I forget my terminology, but he said to me, he says, Ken, he says, no, the Constitution either, something we don't know. If you don't understand it, you don't know it. Police are sworn to uphold, yes, and they abuse it because they know most people don't know it or understand it. And that's what I'm saying. We need to know it. So as I was saying, I said to him something, and he said to me, no, Ken, he says, either the Constitution gives our federal government permission to pass a law, or our Constitution doesn't give them permission to do. That was so simply put. But I didn't see it that way. I didn't understand it that way. Most of us don't. He knows quite a few people in, and he says he count maybe 3 or 4 people on one hand that he believes really knows the Constitution. Should not every politician have to go to school and learn the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence before they step into office, before we vote them in? Should not the President of the United States, before he steps in office, know and understand the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence? How can he uphold these things if he doesn't understand them? If he has a rough knowledge of it like we do, how can he uphold them and protect us, we the people? Like David said, it's like the soldier saying, "I'll protect you. I'll defend. I'll wait a minute. You're not my friend, and you're going to protect me. I can't trust you." All right, let me read what you said. At the same point, recently, High Court deemed the police have no duty to protect we the people, rather to be law enforcers. So perhaps that is when Constitution, the oath is not sworn by. Oh, maybe. I don't know enough about it. But I do remember, and I was saying on my live stream the other night, on the Insane Friends, we're teeter-totter being tyrannical. I know these globalists are all for it. I'm talking within our government, like Hillary and others. Hey, Kathy. Kathy, thanks for being here. Did I miss you here? But anyways, yeah, we can use their tyrannical laws, rules against them, like the court and their terminology. If you know them, and if you know the Constitution, then you can use that to fortify what you're doing, to give reasons for it, a foundation to operate off of. Sure. And so those that haven't heard David V. Gibbs break down in a small area of the Constitution, you can go back and do a replay or come back after the live stream and listen to his. Okay, let's see. Kathy Durban, thanks for being here, Kathy. So yeah, we need to hold them accountable. I remember I was mentioning this on my last live stream about when I was growing up. On the side of the police cars, it said "protect and serve." They took this off their police cars, off their law enforcement cars. How long ago? It no longer says to protect and serve on their car doors, on their vehicles. It used to say that. So what's wrong with this picture? Why does it no longer say to protect and serve? That's a scary thought, something we don't often stop to think about. But the Constitution that gives us our freedoms gives law enforcement their freedoms. When they're not on duty, when they're not wearing that badge, they're an everyday person like you and I. When they get a paycheck to do what they do, but yet it affords them the same freedoms that we enjoy. And so it applies to everyone. Don't matter if you're in law enforcement or not. It doesn't matter if you're in politics or if you are a senator or whoever you may be. It applies to every single one of us. I shall look for the date of Sexco 2's, I'm not sure, rule for no duty. Okay, please do. Serve, rather, law enforcement to follow, but at least a decade ago. Okay, see, So maybe it's a decade ago when they took off the emblem off the side of their vehicles that stated to protect and serve. You know, I was in Texas. My brother's driving a truck, 18-wheeler, and it said, "In God we trust" on their bumpers of their cars or on the back of their car. I went in, whoa, in God we trust. I'm seeing things. Wait a minute, what? God we trust on the police cars, on the highway patrol cars? I'm like, no way. I took a picture of it, put it on Facebook. Nobody commented. I was really surprised. But the highway patrol's cars, I forget what town in Texas. I think it was Texas. But it states, "In God we trust." Could not believe. So they get it in that town, in that state. All right, June 2005. Okay, well, changing direction a little bit, this 2020 Federal ID Act is a total violation of our Constitution. It was passed in 2005, and it was not made known to the general public. It's only been made known in this last year or so, when the DMV is trying to enforce it and put it upon us. Why are they being so aggressive with this 2020 federal ID? They're manipulating people. They are intimidating people with it, because it's a federal thing, and all of a sudden they got indignation about, you have to have it. No, we don't. Our Constitution does not give the federal government permission to pass or to insert this 2020 federal ID upon us. It's still tells above and beyond says, I still tell my kids their job is to protect and serve. It is their job, but it no longer says it on their vehicles. So what does that mean? Where is the hearts? Where is the foundation to law enforcement when it's no longer on their vehicles? Amen. Above and beyond. Truth Free says, all right, it's because they want to monitor everyone, whether they like it or not. It's Big Brother. It's a sheriff's matter. I'm not sure understanding the sheriff's matter there, Truth Freeze. I'm not understanding your statement. Well, it's more than that. With this RFID chip that they originally made, it's about the size or smaller than the size of a grain of rice, and they can insert it under the skin. And I hear that they've done this to many of our military. They don't even know it. They get 1,000 shots. So I'm exaggerating. And then one of those shots are doing this so they can track them. But now it's in the federal ID card, and they can pull you out of a crowd because you have this. No, it's against our Constitution. It's a violation of the Constitution. Why? Because the Constitution doesn't give them permission to do it. It's tyrannical. It's tyrannical. I didn't pronounce that right. But anyways, it's what it is. They're forcing us against our wills. And they are intimidating people to do this. Truth Freeze. EMP Act. America has chapters all over. Does permit class harm radius license, etc. Natural disaster training, air gun shots on each side, arms. Yeah, right. Tyrannical. Thank you. Above and beyond. I did not pronounce that right. But But see, like I said, the Constitution either gives our government permission to do or it doesn't give them permission to do. And it does not give our government permission to enforce this Federal ID Act that they passed in 2005 without anybody knowing, at least the average person, the general public. And they just recently dropping the bomb on us. I believe that if this comes to Trump's attention, I believe if it comes to Mike Pence's attention, they should, if they're able, they should be able to overthrow it. It should be able to be, held back or removed until, who knows how long, but it should be able to be held back. Okay, states' rights is what the Civil War was all about, yet what are they taught in school? That's a good question. I'm sure they're not taught anything that's truthful, at least not nowadays. Homeschooling, you can't beat homeschooling. If I had children, they would be homeschooled. I'm here to tell you, I know people that have homeschooled their children, and they're head and shoulders above most children that go to the public schools. And they find out and they learn the truth because they're learning it from home. And, parents are doing the research if they don't know it to make sure their children do. So homeschooling is really the way to go. But anyways, that's a whole nother subject, but worthy of having. So we need to know our Constitution. David V. Gibbs, he has books that he's written. He's got one that's coming out here real soon. He mentioned it on this video tonight. This is his most recent video on his channel. And let's see if I can't get that link to his channel back up in the chat. And let's see, did the link go? Let's see here. Oh, it's not taking it. It did. Okay, so yeah, this is unbelievable, and not enough people know. But if somebody has a way to get to Trump and let him know that, look, this 2020 federal ID, the Constitution does not give the federal government permission to enforce this, and they're out of line. And Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, I believe they would overthrow it. If they're at all possible in their power, they can overthrow it. They can overturn it, maybe I should say. They can overturn it. So, united we stand. And united, I say we make it happen on YouTube. You don't know who somebody knows. You just don't know who someone knows. So I hope the right people hear this message, hear this live stream, and Trump can, give it some thought and overturn it. We homeschool as we do 9K and others in Flag. Flag, okay. My wife is from Flagstaff, Arizona. But anyways, homeschooling is the way to go because you can get your children the truth. You can get them the right books. Today, far as education, I was talking with the guy and he's like, I had to sit my granddaughter down and teach her that that 3 and 3 is 6. It's not 5 3/4. You just get close to the right number. They're not teaching our children math to get exact numbers. Just get close. It's like, how can you count change? How can you be a cashier, which is a menial job, if you can't count change? How can you be a cashier? Impact America. Okay. I haven't heard of that, but I will have to find out what that is. Like I'm saying, I'm learning about all this and sharing what I'm learning. HSDL helps any parents wanting and having a hard time in the school district. That's good to know. HSDL helps any parents wanting and having a hard time with the school districts. All right. Please do put the link in the comments afterwards. Yes, definitely. And then I can also put that in the description as well. If it's in the chat, then I can put it in the description, and I'll be glad to put it in the description. My brother went through a struggle with the school district and, got their attention. But if he would have had some help like that, it sure would have made a big difference for him. Immigration reasons for enforcing. What they're saying, the lie they're telling, or their quote reason isn't true, but they're saying it's because of terrorism. Terrorism is why we're doing this. It's an excuse to get control of the people. Because if terrorists want to bomb us, they're going to bomb us. If the terrorists want to get on an airplane, they proved it. There were some terrorists that in 9/11, they actually took flying lessons and went to school. They'll get around it one way or another. This is a joke. It's a way to get control of the people. And they're also making steps towards this in Europe. I've spoken to some people here on YouTube that are going, oh yeah, they're making some changes here in Europe too, and it pertains to this very thing. I just saw a video about Africa, how Africa was trying to enforce this upon the African people, and they rose up and they backed down a bit and pulled back some. And this was in Africa. It's in preparation to what they're doing here, what they're pushing here. I don't know how many people already have just went out and they've got the 2020 federal ID. I've talked to a few people here on YouTube. Oh, I've already got it. They don't understand. They don't understand. We perish for a lack of knowledge. We perish for a lack of understanding. Get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. And we're perishing. We need to know our Constitution. We need to know our Bill of Rights. We need to know the Declaration of Independence. Like it or not, whether you're Christian, you hate Christians, you like Christians, you're a Christian, our forefathers were Christians. And our forefathers put this in order because they knew what was coming. They knew what they faced in England. They knew that the England magistrates, the England Church of England had total control. They weren't accountable to nobody, and they ran amok, and they left England and came here for freedom. And to prevent that from happening again, they put these documents in order to protect our freedoms. And in this last 20 years, those in power have been on a thrust to take over and to create all this, to take our freedoms. I don't really have all the right words at the moment, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Our forefathers agreed to paying for public schools so children could learn and read their Bibles. Yes. And our forefathers, what a lot of people don't realize is there weren't reading books in school. They read the Bibles. That's where they learned to read. They were reading thee and thou, and they were reading out of the King James Bible. That was their reading book. And most people haven't even given that any thought. And we got to get back to basics. And far as those that know me and have been on my channel for a while, is for Adam. Let's see. Forefathers, I'm not sure what you mean is for Adam. A truth freeze. But what I was getting ready to say is anybody that's been on my channel for a while, they know I'm a Christian. Okay, I have a Bible study channel. And my other channel is called Basic Bible Study 77. It's Basic Bible Study 777. And I'm going to be doing a Bible study there tomorrow. I'm not sure at the moment exactly what it's going to be on. But I'm a Christian, and that's what I'm trying to say. And so I see Bible prophecy, being fulfilled here. And I believe we can hold, if we know our Constitution, if we know our Bill of Rights, if we know the Declaration of Independence, we the people, and there's enough of us, and like Trump's a Christian, for those that don't know, Trump became a Christian while he was running for office, and that's why you see he saw his direction change a bit, his attitude changed, and people wasn't quite sure where that was coming from that didn't know. They thought, it's a facade, it's a game he's playing, he's manipulating the public. No, he's a Christian, he's a new Christian. And so Mike Pence is a Christian and has been for years. For those that don't know. So if they get a hold of this gets across their desk, I think they'll turn this over. They'll remove this Federal ID 2020 Federal ID Act. When Bush was running for office. When Bush was in office. They passed this bill. And they kept it secret from the general public until recently. And so we need to make noise, call the White House, call the Washington, D.C. Republican Party. King James Version came late, but we get the point. Okay. But they learned how to read the Bible, and that was their reading book. But this is something people don't even stop to think about. So anyways, when we know our Constitution, and we know the Bill of Rights, and we know the Declaration of Independence, we can keep our government officials, our president, accountable and hold them accountable. And when we know it, most of them in office don't know it. Sanity. King James. Keep them accountable. Yes, truth freeze. But we have to know it to keep them accountable to it. And they know most people don't know it. Most people in our government don't know, or the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence. They haven't studied it, not like they should. They don't know it like they should. I bet you there's more people that are not in the government, are not representatives, or not in Congress that know it probably better than most of them. That's why I say before the president becomes president, he needs to know the Constitution. He needs to know the Bill of Rights. He needs to know the Declaration of Independence. How can we, all these years, allowed presidents of the United States to become president without knowing these foundational documents that make America what America is? You know, Trump says, let's make America great again. Well, does Trump know the Constitution? Does he know the Bill of Rights? Does he know the... I don't think so. And most presidents don't know it. I got to plug in this phone. You know, and all our politicians, you know, they don't know it. And they don't want to know it. And I'll tell you why they don't want to know it. The reason they don't want to know it is because, like I was saying, the Constitution either gives them permission to do something or it doesn't give them permission. They want to play ignorant and just do what they want to do so they're not accountable. Well, I didn't know. You know, are we not acting like children, and yet they are governing our world, governing America? I'll put his link. It was in the chat. I don't know if it's there any longer. But I'll put it in the comments after the live stream. His link to his channel, I'll pin it in the comments. Above and beyond, that's no exam to be elected to anything in America. It should be above and beyond. That's what I'm saying. You know, I would naturally assume, not knowing, not being educated on it myself, but intellectually, I'd be thinking our president has to know the Constitution. It's the foundation to America. They'd have to know the Bill of Rights. It's the foundation to America. They would have to know these things if they're in office, if they're representing us. How can our representatives properly represent us when they don't know these foundational documents that makes America what America is? How could that be overlooked? I don't understand that. This needs to be talk of the town. We have screwed up America. We need to hold our politicians accountable, and they need to know the Constitution. They need to know the Bill of Rights. They need to know the Declaration of Independence before they can get into office, and they need to be able to be quizzed about it by the public, by those that know it, and not somebody they know, an outsider. And they need to be able to stand there and answer questions before they're ever elected. You know, that should be a requirement. You know, we say foreigners need to come in here and they need to know the Constitution, but our politicians don't. Our president don't. You know, and then this life term of being in office, I don't think that we should have a life term of being in office. Far as if you're, you know, a governor, or if you're in a Senate worker, you know, if you sit on the seat of the Senate, you should have a short term there too. Everybody within our government should have a short term seat. You know, this is all backwards, and we wonder why we're in the shape we're in. Besides, we're getting away from God that this country was built on. We're getting away from the Bible, which this country was built on. And the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, guess where that foundation came from to those documents? The foundation to those documents came from, if you're ready for this, for those that don't know where I'm going, they come from the Bible. These documents founded from the Word of God, known as the Holy Bible. And I'm inclined to say the King James Version on top of it. You know? And yet, our officials don't have to know it because it limits them. They don't want to know it because it limits them. It either gives them permission to pass laws or it doesn't give them permission to pass laws. And this is why they need to know it. That's why. They need to know it. Because it either gives them permission to do or it doesn't give them permission to do. Look at all the garbage Hillary Clinton, unfortunately, has got away with. She doesn't care about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Declarations of Independence, I believe, to start with. You know, if she had to learn it and study it and to know it, you know, but she knows she's violating it. She doesn't know what, but you know, but then she don't care. But if she knew it, she could be held even more so accountable to it. And those that supported her in it. Thank God she didn't make good. Thank God she got shut down. And so that's my rant, my frustration, my disappointment. Okay, yes, moral virtue schools is by design corrupt. Gender rights, yes. Climate change. Hey, little dumpling. Thanks for being here. Yeah. I mean, how could he sit there and try put in motion? Shame on him. But again, I believe it's a sign of the time. Many wondering if Ginsburg is alive. Don't know. I'm not sure. You know, I know Snowden is a good movie, and I know the guy that did Snowden. In the movie, he was running for his life because he exposed what his administration was doing and tapping into everybody's cell phones and everything. Yeah. So this is why I say, the bottom line is, one, we need to get a hold of Trump, of our President Trump, my President Trump, Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, and we need to get this 2020 federal ID across their table, you know, and get it in front of them. We need to get this lack or this need to be put in motion where any government official, anybody running for any office needs to have studied and know and be questioned whether they know it on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, before they can run for office on any level. On any level. If you're going to be a representative in our local government, within our local Senate, on a local level, they need to know our Constitution before they are allowed to get into office, before they can be voted into office. The governors of each state need to know and understand the Constitution before they are allowed to be governed, before they can even be voted in. And they need to have a non-biased person, kind of like David Gibbs, that can't be bought, to test them and put it live on television where they're showing all angles so they don't have cue cards that are giving them the answers. Make sure there's no cards giving them the answers. And quizzed, do they really know the Constitution? Do they know the Bill of Rights? Do they know the Declaration of Independence? Random questions. This needs to be a requirement. This needs to be a requirement for any official, whether it's local government or federal government, before they get into office. Anybody that wants to run for office on any level needs to know it, and their underlings, the runner, needs to be studying the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. Truth Freeze says, hey, little dumpling. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Ginsburg. I haven't really heard much on that. I don't know. This needs to be a requirement, and I think everyone in this chat would agree to that, and many, many others. If I represent X amount of people, and if you represent X amount of people, and if we agree, if the seven of us agree with what I'm saying about it needs to be a requirement to know these documents, then that means the majority of the population would agree that they need to know these documents. Now, I'm not talking about the 20 and 30-year-olds today. They're too liberal. They've been brainwashed by this liberal government that we have, and they're just going to rebel because they don't like it. Unless they're mature and they haven't been brainwashed by this socialistic government that we have. But most of the young people today, in general, they've been brainwashed by this liberal government, and the fact that you're tying your hands with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, they're going to have a fit and act like children, have a tantrum. But any mature young adult that has values and values America, they're going to agree. Amen. Truth Freeze. It's all willful. Ignore our leaders. Excuses to be cynical. Yeah. My eyes are getting blurry. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to. Sorry, my eyes are getting blurry. This is Dinosaur. I think it's Gemini. Dinosaur. I think gaming. Dinosaur Gaming. I think that is. Thanks for being here. 59 United States from 13 original colonies. First song, I think, or of when I saw the title. 50 United States from 13 original colonies. First song, I think, of when I saw the title. I'm not sure what you're referring there, Dinosaur Gaming. We need the young to learn the Constitution. Amen, Truth Freeze. It will never happen in schools. Little Dumpling says, hi, Dinosaur Gaming. Even the constitutional lawyers don't learn it. There it is. We need to hold them accountable. They need to know it. And that's why I say random people that know the Constitution, kind of like David V. Gibbs, for example, should be able to go in live and ask them questions and have them be able to answer. That simple. Prove it. Prove that you know it before you ever pass to run for office. That it should be a requirement for anybody running for office to know it, to know these documents. Okay, Dinosaur Gaming says, don't mind my name. It's okay. I'll be changing soon. My name is Colin Worley. Or Colton Worley. Okay, Colton Worley. I wouldn't give out your last name. I just said it out loud. I'm sorry, bro. But first name is good. You're not your family name. Your last name's your family name. That's why I don't mention my last name. Just to give you a heads up on that. Okay, Colton. No dumpling. Most millenniums won't. Yeah, most millenniums won't, but the mature millennials that have good foundational home upbringing, I believe they will. That may not be the majority, but they will. They just have to have that good foundational upbringing, where they have the values that our country was on, and it was instilled into them from their parents and other grandparents, other family members. But we need to make this requirement. Our generation, please shout this out. I don't mean shout it out far as my channel, although that's not what I'm talking about. This conversation. Let's start talking about this. Let's start, stirring this up within wherever you're at, wherever you go. About our leaders need to know the Constitution. They need to be studying it. They need to know the Bill of Rights. They need to know the Declaration of Independence. They need to know it. That's real important. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I've got a book. I think I have it right here. I hope so. Yes. Here's a book I got a hold of, and it's called The Anti-Federalist Papers and the Federalist Papers. I want to turn this around. Okay. All right, I'm trying to turn my camera around so you can see it. All right, here it is. It's a book everybody should get. It should be cool. This should be in the public schools by Ralph Mitchum. The Anti-Federalist Papers and the Federalist Papers. Okay. Your teenagers, your young adults, and if you haven't seen it, that's something everybody ought to understand, because it talks about before we became a United States, when we had the unions, and the fears and the concerns that the different statesmen had, and letters going back to different statesmen about becoming a United States rather than individual colonies. And you got those that were for it, and then you had those that were against it. So it's the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist, those that were against us becoming a federal government and becoming the United States from the unions. And that book should be basic. This book ought to be basic home, a book that every home should have. And it goes hand in hand with what's going on. It's really informative, and it's by Ralph Mitchum. Let's see. In North Carolina, they teach the Constitution in the 5th. I think, well, that's great. Well, praise God. Hallelujah. That's good to know. How much is this book? When I bought it, there was a few years ago. I think it cost me like $6. It's 2 a.m. Eastern time, big time mess up. Arizona, opt out. Okay. Arizona. I like how they operate over there. You can get a license. People that live there, their license are good for a lifetime. That's how it used to be here everywhere. I saw in our local DMV about, I want to say 15, 20 years back, it was up on their bulletin board stating that when you bought your driver's license, it was good for a lifetime. When you license your car, the reason your car has a license plate on it, there was no way to identify your car when it got stolen. It was like having a horse without a brand on it. If you owned a horse and it wasn't branded, somebody could steal your horse and you'd have no clue when you were looking at your horse if it was your horse, because there's no brand on it. It could be anybody's horse. So they started branding their horses because of horse theft. Well, when cars come along, there was car theft. They were really easy to steal, kind of like your horse. So they got clever and they came up with a license plate. And so they put a license plate on the car for the reason of, if your car got stolen, it can be identified. And they manipulated that one and milked it, wore it out. And now that it's a required fee every couple years, and now they connected your smog to it and all this other stuff. Joe McIver, hey, my brother from another mother. Thanks for being here, Joe. Joe McIver, thanks. I thought you were down for the count. But anyways, so they're abusing the laws. They're abusing and using and abusing everything they can use and abuse. Just went from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., right? Well, it was 1:59. Now it's, yes, that's true. That's right. You got to turn your clocks back. I forgot. Thanks for the reminder. Let's see. Free. I know about free, but knowing our Constitution and not being overtaxed and not being used and abused because they can and run amok because we don't know it well enough or don't know it at all. Shoot the dinosaur gaming, amazing. Ha. Okay. DMV state gets mega 3 privilege to drive, tickets and all. Yeah. And now each state, instead of it being an independent state, and you operate independently within that state, all the DMVs, all the states are connecting. No matter what state you're in, they've been doing that for the last 15, 20 years. Wait a minute. That's more control. That was their first big step in control, was connecting all that. And 2005, they passed this 2020 federal ID, license to fish. Yes, in California, there shouldn't be a license to fish. Their excuse for charging us license fees and tag fees for our cars. They got to keep up the roads. They got to do all this work to keep the roads in good condition. So they got to tax us. What are they doing with the fish? They have nothing to do with the fish in our streams and our rivers. Yet you got to have a license. They don't own that. That's God-given. You have a God-given right to eat. There are some laws. There are some laws on the books, but you got to know them. See, it's going back knowing the laws. I have heard of a guy lived in Tennessee. He would shoot a deer and feed his family. And somebody turned him in. The game warden gave him a ticket. He went to court and he knew the law. And he stated to the judge that this law pertained to, I forget the terminology, but basically the law stated that if you're shooting an animal like a deer to feed your family, it was perfectly acceptable, and he was within his God-given rights. And he presented this law. Now I'm paraphrasing it big time. But there's a law that states if you are hunting to feed your family, you can do that. but we don't know the laws. That's what I'm saying. We need to know the laws, local laws. We need to know the Constitution. We got studying to do. We spend how much time riding motorcycles, camping, fishing, hiking, watching the TV, and we should be studying. You know, we're sleeping at the wheel. We're sleeping at the wheel, and we wonder why we're a train wreck. You know, we're a train wreck as a nation because we're so busy, focused on, I got to take that vacation. I got to spend 3 hours in front of the TV. I got to watch that TV show and that TV show and that series and that series. And we spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day in front of a TV while we become vegetables. Our government is diligently working moment by moment, every moment of every hour of every day, working against us while we're asleep at the wheel. And we have an oncoming car at us, and we don't even realize it till we get hit by it. You know, the oncoming car is the federal government, those that don't care, those that are out to take our freedoms away. We're too busy watching TV and camping and fishing. If we could spend a weekend camping and fishing, can we not spend a few hours a week, an hour or two a day reading and learning our Constitution, reading and learning our Bill of Rights, reading and learning the Declaration of Independence? If we can work 8 hours a day to feed our family and keep a roof over our head, can we not take an hour or two a day or a week at least to start educating ourselves? You know, we're asleep at the wheel. It took how many people back in 1962 to take Bibles out of school, take away our flag? You know, asleep at the wheel. And as a whole, as a country, we've turned our backs on God, and we wonder why our country's fallen apart. You know, our country was built by God-fearing men and women. And God-fearing men and women, it's time for us to repent and get right, get on track in our relationship, our vertical relationship, and our horizontal. It's me and you. But it starts with the vertical. Then it's governmental. Then it's one another. You know? We've gotten away from that. It's all about me, 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 me. And I'm asleep at the wheel. And you wonder why we're in the condition we're in. My dad would say, it's high time, America. Let's wake up, you know? That's what my dad would be saying if he was here. God his soul. So I don't know what else to say. You know, I know united we stand, we the people. We're a mighty army, a mighty force. You know, I've said occasionally, well, what if everybody could get together and not pay their taxes? We'd get the government's attention. But we would all have to get together and decide we're not paying our taxes this year. Our government, all of a sudden, our officials would be going, what can we do? You know, we would have their attention. You know, getting loans from the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergers, you know, to fight wars, they couldn't get enough money if everybody got together and didn't pay their taxes. I'm just saying, do I think that would happen? No. If we could, it would be great, because we would get their attention and they would their ears would be open all of a sudden, you know. Big business, deep pockets, corporations, all of a sudden they wouldn't have the leverage they have over us. If everybody could get together and decide, okay, this year we're not paying taxes, we're not doing it. You know, corporations would be the government would be saying, wait a second, we got to regroup, we got to reevaluate, we got to, all of a sudden, you know, they had a deficit for real. They'd have a serious deficit on their hands. And, you know, they'd have to start pulling money out of their offshore accounts that they don't want us to know they have. but most people know. But anyways, point being is, we got to get back to basics. We got to know our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and we need to start taking the time to learn it. And they need to know it before they can get into office. Before we vote them in, they need to know these things. And people that know it, that teach it, need to be questioning them about it live, without cue cards that gives them the answers. So everybody thinks, oh, they know it. Well, they're reading a cue card down here that nobody sees, right? We need to see all angles, so we know there is no cue cards, hopefully. And if they know, it'll be who they are. It'll be in their soul, and it'll be a part of who they are if they really know it and if they really care. And that'll be self-evident. That'll be self-evident if they truly know it. And if they care about it, it'll be evident. It'll be obvious that they care. But this needs to be a requirement. And we need to start pursuing our government and telling them, look, no one else is getting into office until they know the Constitution. Nobody else is going to get into office till they know these documents. And when they know these documents, and they've gone to school, they've learned this, then they can run for office. And those that are presently in office need to be required to learn it and prove that they know it. And there can be checks and balances put in place, There's a solution. There's the solution. Okay, let's see. Truth Freeze, Boob Tube, and Fluoride has mucked us up. Well, let's put too much emphasis on the fluoride. But yeah. The slow boil. That's right, the slow boil. The frog in the water. The frog in the water. Gonna boil it. It's gonna boil it to death. That's where we're at. We got to jump out of that pan. We're in the pan. Time to wake up and jump out of that pan. Let's get uncomfortable. Let's hold them accountable. Let's learn this stuff. The main test that should be limits test on the politicians who represent us. Yes, exactly. A truth freeze. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And they need to be tested by people that truly know it. Like I'm saying, like the guy, this Douglas V Gibbs, that teaches the Constitution. He's not the only one. There's others. There's several here, and he's one of them here in California. In the Riverside area, here in California. He teaches a class, and he knows a bunch of local politicians. He says he can count on one hand those that know the Constitution, and he knows a bunch of local politicians. He knows a bunch of people in office, and he can only count on one hand those that actually know it, that he feels knows it. That's a serious problem. They all should know it. The main test, yes. Okay, let's see. Over 90% of municipal after supplying is drugged, Prozac-like. Understand that? Yes. Yeah. If a child's got a problem, give them Prozac. It's the solution. No, it's not. It doesn't give that child tools to work and to understand and to learn and to develop himself. It retards. It dumbed down. Okay, we are drugged rather with our tapped water unless one has a well. I have well. I don't know how true that is. That could just be hype, and that could just be, conspiracy theory. And maybe not. Maybe there's some truth to it. But when you think about the news and how it's always been one-sided, I remember growing up being told the news is one-sided. You're getting one side of the story when you listen to the news, and you can't believe everything you hear and half of what you see. There's a lot of truth in that. And So, I remember hearing, shoot, back in I want to say back in the 80s, they were showing conflict in Africa. And all over the news, they were showing this major conflict supposed to have been all over Africa. Bombings and all kinds of stuff going on. Then a missionary that was there in Africa saw this personally, come back going, that was in one small city, in a town, in one area. It was an isolated situation. And yet the news made it look like it was all over Africa, and it was this great big problem, and it was everywhere. And the missionary that was there going, no, it was isolated in one little small town. Their sin found them out. They got exposed. But it wasn't, a few people heard that. A few people were aware of it. We didn't have the YouTube at the time to expose it, There wasn't Facebook at the time to expose it. So yeah, you can't believe the news, very little. And it's like, what do you believe nowadays, Unless somebody's speaking from their heart, it's really sad. Really, really, really sad. But this is what I'm saying is, if our politicians, if those running in local government and federal government had to know, had to learn and prove that they know it and understood it, and if they really cared about it, it would be self-evident. We would see it. It would be obvious that they cared and that they knew it. It would be, like our forefathers, it would be who they were. Pharmaceutical culture, Golam, thanks for being here. Yes. Very serious conversation right now. And so that's what I'm saying. Our forefathers were able to write these documents because they knew them. It was in their hearts and souls. It was who they were. And the foundation to where they came from the Bible. It's how these documents got put together and developed. It was who they were. It come from their soul. It come from their hardship and what they experienced in England, and how England was tyrannical and out of control and abuse of power. And they said they wanted to change that here in a new country, in a new world for generations to come. And, they've even said if our government gets out of control to take up arms, and I'm not promoting that. I'm not saying that, but our forefathers said that, It's time that we know our Constitution. It's time that they are held accountable to know it. If they're going to represent us, whether it's local government or federal, they need to know it. They need to care about it. I heard a story from a guy at work. He knew a guy whose dad was in Sacramento, worked there, and was in office in Sacramento. And his dad went in with this mindset and attitude of, I'm coming and I'm going, I'm running, I'm getting involved so I can make changes, in America, in California. And I'm going to make a difference. Everything that he wrote up, everything that he suggested got thrown out, got turned down. And I forget how long he pursued it and how long he pushed. He ended up quitting his job. He was so disappointed, I heard. And he went into office to make a difference. And one time I was in Washington, and there was a woman at the church where I was attending was saying she'd like to help somebody run for a position locally in the local government. And I was all for it. Okay, yeah. And so we talked again, and she's telling me, I could get you volunteering here, and I could get you volunteering there, and you could work for this person and that person, and then we could make some money. And she started talking about the power you would get. And she started talking about the money you could make. And I'm telling her, I'm speaking from my heart and I'm being honest. I'm thinking she would find it attractive and she would find it endearing. And, I would be the right guy for the position. And I'm telling her that I don't care about the money. I really don't care about the money. I would like to run for office. I'd like to hold a position so that I can make some changes to better this state here and this local area here. I see things that change and need to be improved, and I really would like to be able to do that and make a difference in this town. Guess what? She quit talking to me. All of a sudden, she had nothing more to say to me, and I no longer existed because I wasn't there for the money, and I didn't care about the power. I wasn't the guy. She moved on looking for somebody else that would fit her little scheme, And I didn't even got my feet wet yet. This is just in planning and just conversation, the very beginning stages. And it was like, wow, that put a bitter taste in my mouth. That was an eye opener for me. I just went, wow. She wanted to get some, because she ran for office and she was in office and she had done this for a few years and then she got out. And she was trying to help somebody else get in because now she knew the ropes and she was going to help them. Looking for the love of money is the root of all evil, yeah. In all the wrong places. Well, not me. I wasn't looking, bro. She just made a statement about she would like to help somebody get into office. And I'm thinking, man, if I can make some changes and make some improvements in this town, I would really feel like I was doing my job, and really make a difference and being in a position to help people in their daily lives. That was where my heart was at. I come from a pure heart, from a clean foundation, bro. And she was all about making money herself, and as an end result to helping someone else, get there because she'd been there, done that. And she knew the ropes and she knew the people. Okay, let's see. Politicians get drunk with the money they can get from being a concerned politician. I can't speak to that. That may be very well true. Very well true. It could very well be, you may be 1,000% correct. All I know is, like I was saying, it was just in conversation. I was just nothing. We were just talking about just scratching the surface in conversation, going in that direction, hopefully. And like I said, she realized I wasn't that guy once I told her that I didn't care about the money. We all can use money, but money doesn't have a grip on me, we all can use it. But that wasn't my motive. My heart was at, if I can make a difference for other people in their lives by being, running, that's what I cared about. Hey, RG Homestead, how you doing, bro? And so I'm glad you're here, RG. Our lower level politicians are often good intentions, but DC corrupts so many of them. Yes. We need grassroots folks to run. Yes, we do need grassroots folks to run. And like I'm saying, our grassroots folks need to know the Bill of Rights. They need to know the Constitution. They need to know the Declaration of Independence. If they're going to represent us, then they need to know it so they can protect them. Just like the Constitution says, to protect. our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But they got to know them to protect them. How can you protect something you don't know? You don't understand. You know, it's a shadow. It's or not even a shadow. You know, you have no clue. So that's what I'm saying. You know, we need to put this in motion that anyone running for office needs to be put in motion. It needs to become the rule. If we're going to see real change, and if America is going to truly be great again, this is a foundational step that nobody's talking about making. It's a foundational step that it's something that we should have been doing. It should have already been in place 50, 100 years ago. I can't believe that it hasn't been a requirement all these years. You know, when I was a teenager, I would have assumed that those running for office already knew these things. You know, it was something they already understood. It's something they had memorized, you know. We can memorize the Bible, we can memorize, you know, quotes of different people, but we don't know the Constitution. We can't quote the Constitution. We can't quote, you know. How many people know the preamble today? Just something that simple. I can't. I'll be the first to tell you. And that's what I'm saying. You know, we got to regroup. It's time to regroup, repent, regroup, whatever you want to call it. RG, one way to fix the problem, a term limit. Yes, I agree, RG. At all levels. Yes, I said that earlier, definitely. To the public service to help the masses in this country. Amen, brother. Amen, RG. I said that a little earlier. On all levels, yes. And this is something we need to present to our politicians, local government as well as federal. They need to be hearing this from everybody. This needs to become the talk of the town. How could we let this slip? How could something so foundational get left out and is so far removed? When it's the rock, it's the mortar, it's the glue to this country. How could it not be a part of our federal and local government in the hearts and souls of those in office? How could this be left out? You know, this topic, this conversation, this needs to be shouted from the rooftops, from the mountaintops. It needs to echo all throughout Congress, local government, federal government. It needs to be the talk of the White House. I mean, this foundation here needs to be engrafted back into our federal and local government. It's missing. And you wonder why our government's becoming a train wreck. America's becoming a train wreck. You know, we got all this socialism going on. You know, this Obamacare is really China's healthcare. We are operating America is operating on socialistic healthcare. That's what we have. I compared America's present healthcare, Obamacare, to China's healthcare. Did you know it dovetails? China's healthcare and the healthcare we have right now dovetails. It's almost one of the same. So we have communistic healthcare in America. That was a huge stronghold. That was foundational. That was put in motion while Obama was in office. And I'm sure Hillary had a lot to do with that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying. Communistic healthcare is now in motion, in order in America. We need to get back to the healthcare we had before this. We need to go back to the healthcare we used to have. It worked. It was just fine. We may need to tweak it a bit, but We need to go back to the healthcare we had. Something nobody even thought about doing. I just one day I thought, let's compare this healthcare, this Obama garbage, to China's healthcare, and I Googled it, and it's basically the same thing. I was like, I'm not surprised. I really thought it was, and I was right. So anyways, if I say any more, I'm just going to be repeating myself at this point. But RG, you said it right. The problem is they need to have term limits on all levels, and they need to know these documents. It's up to us to know the person that we are voting and stuff. But how can we know them, RG? It's not like they were our neighbor. I haven't, but let's say I grew up with a vice president. Let's say I grew up with a governor as a teenager. I don't know him as an adult. He's not the same guy he was that I grew up with as a teenager, as a kid. It's not like we know these people personally. We'd have to know them personally to know. We don't know them personally. They tell us what they want us to hear. They put on the front they want us to see. People become actors. And maybe once in a while you see their true heart. I believe, was it Robert Kennedy that was shot? I think if I forget, is it Robert Kennedy or was it who was shot? I forget who it was. But you may know who, you may remember who it was. But anyways, I think he was right. I think his heart was right. I think he was going in the right direction. And not Booth. It was one of the Kennedys that was shot. He was running for presidency. Yeah. Yeah. I believe his heart was in the right place. John F. Kennedy. Okay, I figured you knew there, RG, or somebody did. Yeah, I believe John Kennedy, we saw his heart. I believe we saw him being honest and straightforward and speaking from his heart and soul. And those were in office and those knew that they were in trouble and they had to get rid of him. And Patsy Oswald. Okay, all right. That was before my time, way before my time. But I remember hearing about that. Secret societies. Okay. But no, I believe there are few people we have seen their heart. They are genuine. But in general, that's not the case. I think it's an act of God that Trump's in office and Mike Pence is in office and they're together. Mike Pence being a Christian, for those that don't know, I mentioned that earlier. And excuse me, I feel like I've got something in my eye. But anyways, we've got Mike Pence as the vice president. That man is a born again believer. He's a true Christian. Not everybody knows that. And I mentioned earlier that Trump became a Christian while he ran for office. That's why we've seen the direction change and his attitude change midway through his election. But not everybody knows that. They think it's a manipulation or something. It's called an eyeball just made. Yeah. Got something in my eye. But anyways, yeah, not everybody knows that about Trump becoming a Christian while he was running for office. And that was the reason for his change of attitude. And not everybody knows that Mike Pence is a Christian and has been for many, 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 many years. But I have a very reliable source and I verified it. You can Google it. Look up Mike Pence under Christian Businessmen's Organization. And you'll find Mike Pence involved with Christian Businessmen's Organization. Been there for years. But anyways, we need to get back to basics. Anyone running in local or federal government needs to know these documents. And I'll say it again: the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. They need to know these foundational documents that's made America great and makes America what it is before they're ever in office. Whoever it may be, I don't care. Governor, governor's assistant, the runner, the paper runner, the office runner, all the way down the line. Everyone should know it. People answering phones within, Sacramento, everyone working in Sacramento should know it. At local government, everyone needs to know, as far as I'm concerned. And you need to have it you need to have it. You need to own it if you're running for office on any level. We need to support and hold up any locals who could run, and yes, we should, most definitely, and love the Constitution and morals. Yes, that's right. You don't have to be a Christian to hold to the Constitution, to hold to the Bill of Rights, to hold to the Declaration of Independence. It has made America great. It's still holding America together. We're losing ground, and that's the problem. And that's why I'm saying, before it slips away, now's the time. It's high time, as my dad would say. It's high time before it's past time, because then it's too late. And my dad was pushing integrity. Integrity this, integrity that. America's was losing integrity. And how many people today, how many millennials understand integrity and what integrity means? How many of our youth recognize the word integrity and can tell you what something as simple as integrity and what that means? My dad pushed integrity. He shouted that from the rooftops. And that's something that simple. That's not even the Constitution. But integrity itself encompasses so much, But we got to get back to basics, America. United we stand, divided we fall. But I believe we can turn it around. It only takes a spark to get the fire going, right? If you can be that spark, if I can be that spark, maybe we can get a fire going and we can get America back on its feet again. I believe it's possible. I seen a commercial recently here on YouTube that was talking about a group of people that's talking about deep pockets and talking about getting rid of holding our government accountable and taking their focus off of the corporations and the people paying them off and becoming accountable to the people again. And so it's starting. There's a commercial out here on YouTube. I've only seen it once. Hopefully there'll be more of this commercial going around, and they're trying to get people together. But they need this foundation. This needs to be a part of that foundation of what they're doing. This needs to be the foundation of which upon everything else is built, is knowing these documents, those in office, those running for office, local and federal. And I hope, somehow, some way, by a miracle, President Trump sees this broadcast, or Mike Pence hears of it and sees this broadcast. That would be so cool. I'd be like blown out of the water. That'd make my day. And so it's late. I'm just going to be repeating myself at this point if I continue. But I'll be showing more of. Go to David V. Gibbs, not David. I'm sorry. Douglas V Gibbs Channel website. He's also at politicalpistachio.com. That's his website, politicalpistachio.com. Then he also has davidvgibbs.com. He speaks regularly to tea parties and different groups all around California here. And his link to his channel is in the description right now. I'm going to put that link to his channel in the comments after the live stream once it uploads. So it'll be pinned. So those that don't know where the description is, they can find his link to his channel in the comments. And David V. Gibbs has given me permission to show his videos. I have his constitutional class live in my playlist. When I was going to his class a few months back, we went from Article 1, I believe it was clear, to Article 6, maybe Article 7 or 8. RG, have a great tomorrow. Enjoy life. I am. Thank you. It's too short. Amen. The most of it while you're here. Amen, RG. I am. I do. But this is something that needs to be addressed. Nobody's talking about it that I'm aware of, that I know of. And this needs to be talk of the town. This conversation about these documents, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and anything else I may have left out needs to be the conversation that sets fire within our political arenas. And it needs to become a concern. It needs to be something that needs to be implemented, needs to be put into motion, so that it's a requirement for them to know before they can run. It's an hour shorter today. Yes, it is. An hour extra. So anyways, all right. We'll catch you on the rebound. Thank you, everyone that has been here. Thank you for everyone that's still here. It means so much to me for everyone to be here. Gives me hope. That's for sure. And I'll be playing more of his videos, but go to his channel. Check his channels out. He's got some really good books. And he breaks it down. He simplifies it, makes it easy to digest and understand. And I would highly recommend you get a hold of his books. They're worth having. And this last book that's getting ready to come out here in the near future, definitely all of his books. But he's saying this is probably the best book out of all the books he's written. He's got 3 or 4, I believe. Okay, let's see. It's now okay. RG says, yes, the time to change. Yes, it is. The right kind of change. Obama ruined that one. Anyways, yes, RG, I agree. Y'all have been so spot on. Well, thank you, Truth Freeze. And Will's said message. Well, thank you, Truth Freeze. God bless, and God bless you. And you too, RG, and everyone else that's in here. There's 2 watching, but not commenting. But I thank you for being here. It's definitely something that needs to happen. I'm going to push up on the bill of... Amen, brother. Me too. All right. Don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger. I have, a variety of live streams and topics and whatnot, but I'm always up for talking about this. The Bible, Jesus, I'm up to talking about all of it, no matter where or when. That's just who I am. So again, I'm out of here. God bless. Take care. Always say, and I mean it, never give up, because there's always a way. Always. And there is always a way. We got to find out what that way is when we don't know. And a way to implement the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence into the government, into those that are running for offices, to make it a requirement for them to know this before they can actually be voted in. That's what we need to do. And how to do that, we got to find out. But I'm sure there are someone here or someone that will hear this that knows how to make that happen. I don't know how to make it happen. Yes, he is. Amen. John 14:6, brother. St. John chapter 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man can come unto the Father except by me, Jesus said. He is the way. Good word. Good way to finish out this subject tonight. All right, so God bless. Bye for now. And yes, Jesus is the way. Catch you on the rebound. And thanks for being here. Bye for now.